Chapter 36 The Wellspring of Chaos. Tenna appeared in the dream world almost as soon as Trig opened his eyes. She ran over and wrapped her arms around Trig in a painfully tight hug. "How did you do that?" she exclaimed. "Just all of a sudden I felt like I wanted to go to sleep in the middle of the day. I just slumped over in the bathroom. I think I'm lying flat on the floor." "Not all that sure," Trig confessed. "I just thought about what needed to happen, then I did it." "I wonder if your father could do things like that too," Tenna breathed, letting go of Trig. "Maybe you've got the same powers as Malum." "Starting to hope for the opposite," Trig said. "I've seen what he did to my mom. Anyway, where are you and Mom and Selborn?" "We're in a decon chamber about 50 meters away from yours," Tenna said quickly. "Like I said, I think you knocked me out on the bathroom floor. We can hear Captain Cantor arguing on the intercom. Please tell me you have a plan to get us out of here." "We're working on it," Trig reassured her. "But we're gonna lose so much time with this whole quarantine decontamination mess that we might not get to Tritonus first anymore." "And what about Appia?" Tenna whispered. "Does she really have the nocturnal plague?" "I don't want to find out," Trig said with a shudder. "The way Ponico describes it, you and I could have gotten sick if either of us tried to read her mind. We were really cutting it close." "Especially me," Tenna said. "I was reading Glossum and Anfel's minds almost every day. If they got infected, I would have been screwed." "How come you were reading their minds?" Trig asked. "I found out they were both trying to get me to pick them as my Aethera," Tenna replied nonchalantly. "Since I'm not reacting to their flirts and compliments, they're trying to build up the willpower to just seduce me outright. Oh, and how do I describe it? It's a psionic thing. Their intentions were glowing around their bodies like heat from a lamp. It was so hot I'd get sweaty just standing near them. I couldn't help but read their minds. They were making it too easy for me." Trig wanted to laugh, but a third voice caused him to freeze instead. "You know, children, I could say the same of you. Your thoughts are so slow and transparent that I can read them with hardly any effort at all." Trig and Tenna jumped with fright and retreated a few meters from the person standing nearby. An elderly Olenbar man with a heavily wrinkled face held up his hand, giving the children a smile. The man looked so ancient, Trig expected him to crumble into a fine blue powder at any moment. Trig pushed Tenna until she was standing almost behind him. "Who are you? What do you want?" Trig shouted, trying to make himself seem more imposing. The Olenbar man, dressed in bright red robes, tilted his head, and an expression of curiosity appeared on his face. "I should be saying that to you," he replied. "I was tipped off some time ago that Alex Camber was sending an agent here for some unknown purpose. I asked the harbor master to detain any starship crew that came here looking for me. But it seems I was mistaken in more ways than one. You are not the operative I was warned of, and your friend brought the nocturnal plague by accident rather than design." Vitruvius paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Collecting keystone shards, are we? And you have 3 already, including the one Camber lost. Most interesting. Interesting indeed." Trig felt a tingling sensation along his scalp. "You're reading our minds," Trig said. "Stop that." He raised his hand, palm out. Vitruvius laughed. "Boy, the most you can do is give me a minor headache, and you know it. Put your hand down. As for the girl, is that a sense of awe and wonder you are trying to conceal beneath a layer of unbridled lust? Ah, but of course you know about me and my past. You once looked up to myself and the others as heroes. Ponico is on your ship. That's how you know. The robed man furrowed his brow, then seemed to grow a little warmer toward the children. Well then, allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Vitruvius, formerly of the chosen of the great Khan, now a venerable brother of the Shroudwalker Enclave. You are Tenna Honora, though you prefer Tenna, of the Lightwater Moon. And you, Vitruvius pointed at Trig, a look of understanding on his face. Ah, I always knew it was possible. Now the day has come. It is a pleasure to meet you, Trig Ralpakin. Shepminter, Trig said. I was there when you were born, Vitruvius said. I recognize the psionic energy pulsing away from you. It was the same on that day when your father declared his triumph over Ponico and Camber, who dared to question his superiority. He gave you his name, no matter how much your ungrateful mother tried to suppress it. Now, tell me, while you embarked on your haphazard quest to acquire the old keystone shards, were you followed? Followed? Trig and Tenna repeated together. Vitruvius furrowed his brow. No lies, no ignorance, he said. Very well. Young man, you have already sworn to seek out and destroy whatever projects my old master was developing in his sanctum, and I have no objection. Alex Camber does not seek the same divine goals as your father. I will help you, conditionally. Trig just barely managed to stop himself from flinching, but a little something of it showed in his face. What's the condition? Vitruvius raised a finger and said, You must be told the truth of your father's ambitions, Vitruvius said. That is my condition. Wait one moment, please. Then he turned around to face the sky. Trig spotted the song of the Solitaire a moment before Tenna did. Racing through the sky like a radiant emerald snake, the dangerous aurora began swirling and billowing above him. Both of the children flinched, then looked up when it did not attack. I invited him here, Vitruvius said. You see, during the time before you were born, when the Horde was at the height of its power, myself and Camber were closer to Malum than any other. While we never knew the full details of his plans or intentions, we had a better idea than most. I was the first to learn of his ambition to overthrow the gods. Trig gasped. Wait a second. We heard something about the gods being attacked on Sutheria. Correct, Vitruvius said. You must understand, children, that the universe around you is far more complex than it may seem. There are layers above, below, and around us all. This place, he gestured to the surrounding landscape of the dream world, is so much larger than you know. It is a world unto itself, and you've seen but a small part. Above the Shroudwalker Enclave, there is a hole in the fabric between realities, one of many. Whoa, you're talking like an alternate universe, right? Trig said. I've heard about that stuff on TV. I thought it was all just science fiction. Vitruvius rounded on Trig, glaring at him and then pointing to the sky. Does this look like fiction to you, boy? The song of the Solitaire suddenly dispersed, spreading out in all directions until it was no longer visible. Suddenly, a dark red line appeared in the sky, growing wider and wider until the sky seemed to split open. In the center of the tear, the colors faded, allowing Trig, Tenna, and Vitruvius to see what was on the other side. Much like the wormholes found across our own galaxy, these astral rifts lead to other places, but those places are in different universes entirely. The rifts are shortcuts to those otherwise inaccessible planes of reality. Each rift goes to only one destination, but here, in this level of existence, I can visualize each rift I have visited. Behold, the realm of the gods! Colors and shapes came into view through the astral rift. Trig and Tenna could see the most incredible things. On the other side of the astral rift was a place that was both foreign and strangely familiar. A vast ocean of swirling color and shadow loomed ominously through the rift. With a wave of his hand, Vitruvius sealed the astral rift, but the sky above him remained split by a great red gash. Trig and Tenna stood dumbfounded, their mouths hanging open. Malum discovered astral rifts, and the worlds beyond them, soon after his conquest began, Vitruvius said. He sought to understand them, and in doing so he found the shroud, which I have just shown to you. He entered it, and came face to face with the entity your people call Kumase. The Spectre of Oblivion is not some benevolent deity of the afterlife, as Sutherians have come to believe, but a monster that knows only hunger and violence. If it were given the chance, it would have slaughtered everyone in the luminous frontier. Trig felt Tenna grab hold of him. She was shaking. Vitruvius continued. "Do not look away, children," he said. "Your quest will fail if you do not know the true nature of what Malum Ralpakin has done. Look up now." The astral rift began to open again. Malum was repulsed by what he found in the shroud, Vitruvius said. He understood this newly discovered multiverse was a thing of great terror and evil, which must be brought to heel, and only he could do it. The conquest of the shroud, the subjugation of its inhabitants, and meting out similar fates to the world beyond became Malum's ultimate goal, to which he strived for the rest of his life. Malum placed the Horde under the control of his chosen, myself, Camber, Veldanura, Hanakon, Avitus, and Ponico. He took the starship Caldorix and ventured out of the luminous frontier, into the surrounding emptiness. He found more rifts, designed and built prototypes of what would eventually become the conduit network, explored the wreckage left behind by the primogenitors, and finally, he discovered the keys to the highest levels of reality itself, how to gain access to the world above the gods. "Did he get in?" Trig asked. "No, but he was able to look through the rift and see the Wellspring of Chaos, the place from whence the multiverse began," Vitruvius replied. The astral rift was fully open, but this time it was impossible to make out anything on the other side. Formless shapes and colors swirled about before the rift closed. Vitruvius looked at Trig, his expression softer. "Ponico never learned these things," Vitruvius said. "He doubted Malum's power, and then abandoned the Horde. Camber knew less than I, but he seems to have discovered the same truth as Malum himself." Tenna finally jumped out from behind Trig. "Then you totally understand why we're here," she said. "Can't you just give us your keystone shard? We're in a hurry, and we might lose one if we wait here too long." Vitruvius looked at Tenna with an expression Trig could not read. "You are clearly the telepath of the pair," he said. "An admirable attempt, but mind control does not work that way, and your efforts are unnecessary. I have already decided to offer my help to you." "Wait, really?" Trig said. "Why?" Tenna added. Vitruvius paused for a moment, and Trig felt another tingling sensation in his head. Finally, Vitruvius replied, "There was a time when Camber, Veldanura, Ponico, Avitus, Hanakon, and I all shared the same ambitions as our master. In his absence, that time is over." Camber is not interested in mastering all domains. He only seeks the power he once had in the days of the Horde. He has forgotten, intentionally, I believe, about Malum's greater vision. I would rather see the Great Khan's inner sanctum destroyed than in unworthy hands. I fear Camber would only desecrate Malum's work. Do you know what's inside the Necropolis Sanctum? Trig asked. No. That secret was meant for none save the Great Khan himself, Vitruvius said. That is enough talk for now. I must retrieve the Keystone Shard from its secure place. I will summon you to me when it is time.